Mr. Tony Orsini of Norwich is friendly and enjoys life. But on a certain night 50 years ago, Mr. Orsini not only witnessed a tragedy, but also was an important part of the story. On March 6, 1963, the Spalding Dam in Norwich collapsed. 6 people were killed when millions of gallons of water, ice, and debris rushed through the streets. Mr. Orsini was 19 and was there. He tells us what he remembers about the tragedy.
It was in the evening. The dam broke about 9:37, and it was a Wednesday night, March 6, 1963, and I was getting ready for bed. I had just gotten home at 9 o'clock, and my father ran into my room saying Mr. Moody downstairs needed help because he was told to evacuate. Someone had knocked on his living room window and told him the dam broke and we had to get out of there. So he came upstairs to get me. We got into the car. There was 3 children, ages 4 years, 2 years, and 4 months, and his wife, Margaret Moody, and of course Tommy himself. So the 6 of us got into the car and we drove down Lake Street. At that time the water was up to the curb going down Lake Street, and so we managed to get to the bottom of Lake, and we turned the corner, and that's when the floodwaters hit us, and it carried the car and eventually flipped it over, and we landed on our top. And we managed to get out of the car, and we were surrounded by raging floodwaters, and we knew we had to get to higher ground. And we saw this building, so Mr. Moody and I managed to climb onto the building, and when we got there, Mrs. Moody handed us the 3 children. She handed them to her, and he handed them to me. I was crouched on the building. And then when the kids were all safe, he went back to get her and had her by the hand and was ready to pull her up on the building when that side of the building shifted and he lost his grip and she fell into the swirling waters. And there was really nothing we could do about it. And at that time we sort of just regrouped, and we knew we had to get the children to safety before that building collapsed more. So we managed, we saw a tree at the end of the building. So we duck walked the building like it was 60 feet, and we got into this tree. And we managed to stay there for about an hour or so until the waters subsided and the help came. Meanwhile, the building had collapsed, so good thing we managed to get into the tree. I relive that night very often. I really do, and you know, it's still very emotional. I think about how lucky we were and how unlucky the 6 people that lost their lives.
Many articles have been published about this day. And recently, a book, A Swift and Deadly Maelstrom, has been written by Thomas Moody, Jr., one of the boys who survived the disaster. Thomas Moody is now a nuclear power plant supervisor. We asked if the boys are doing well now.
Oh yeah, 2 of them live in the area, and we run into each other occasionally. And Tommy Jr., who wrote the book, he lives in Texas. I know it took Tommy 8 years to write the book, and with all the interviews, the research, and the traveling, and so it took a long time for him, but the book itself is very descriptive, emotional, and informative, and it's very accurate.
Our story is dedicated in memory of those who lost their lives to the sudden flood caused by the collapse of the Spalding Pond Dam. They are Madeline Atterbury, Anna Barrett, Margaret Moody, Alexander Poble, May Robadeau, and Helen Root. Mr. Tony Orsini of Norwich sees himself as a good neighbor, but he will not call himself a hero. We have heard his touching story. We appreciate Mr. Orsini as a hero for what he did in saving this young family.
I really don't consider myself a hero. You know, I was asked to help a family, and that's exactly what I did. I'm sure you guys would do the same thing. The real heroes in our country are the men and women in our military who put their lives on the line every day for our freedom. Those are the real heroes in my mind. That evening, a lot of people did special things. And Mrs. Moody, she was the most courageous one that night. She made sure her children were safe before we lost her. Every day is a gift, Nate and Jason, and live every day to its fullest. And the most important people in your life are your friends and family. And treat them with respect and love. And also, if you know someone in need, don't hesitate to help them.
This is how a courageous man's story became part of Norwich's history. Thank you, Tony Orsini. From Norwich, this is Nate Sweeney reporting.